All right. We're officially live. It's October 18th, and we're getting closer and closer to November 5th. I'll give it a second. It always takes a minute for anyone to know that I'm online. Let's see here. We'll just give it a minute. I'll wait. I'll be patient. Let's make sure I have the sound on. All right, let's see if anyone joins. Anyone out there? Is it just me? And am I just going to do this solo? Maybe it's just me. Oh, there's a couple people on. All right, hey guys, welcome. I don't have a notification on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, let me know. Okay, I think Facebook's on. Hi guys, what's going on? What's happening? It's been a while. Tell me where you hail from. Let's see here. Hopefully it says I'm live. Let's see. All right. It says I'm live. All right. Cool. Nice. That's good. All right. How's everyone doing? How's everybody doing? Are you guys feeling good? Are you feeling positive? Are you feeling negative? Are you hopeful? Are you not hopeful? Are we going to turn this thing around? Is good going to prevail? That's the question of the day. Hey, what's up, Geekmeister in Tucson? What's up? Sam in Virginia. All right, you guys. Well, there's a lot. This week, if we're going to recap this week, it was a lot of little things. So we're going to go through a lot of little things that happened. Last Friday, I did not do my live stream. I was actually at the Trump rally in Colorado, in Aurora, Colorado, which we will talk about shortly. And that was awesome. That was such a great experience. It's so fun. I'm telling you, if you've never been to a Trump rally, you got to get to one. You got to do what you got to do. But it's so fun when you're around thousands and thousands. I mean, there were thousands of people there, like out of control. And like Colorado, they're like, oh, it's just totally blue. It would not be blue if it wasn't for Denver and Boulder. All the people from California that moved here. So thanks, Californians. But it was so cool to see. I mean, the building held like 10,300 or 500 people. That was completely packed. But then lines and lines and thousands of people outside, and people were watching from outside. And it showed me how starved Coloradans are for conservative leadership. And we need it here in this state. And it was so encouraging to see so many people that love this country, that are concerned about this country, that are aware of what's going on. No offense to the left, but when you talk to somebody on the left, they don't know what's going on. They have no idea what's at stake. They don't realize all the freedoms that have already been stripped from us. They don't know. They read headlines and they think that, it doesn't really matter who's president. They have no idea. But when you talk to a conservative, when you talk to a Trump supporter, they're informed on everything. I mean, they know what's going on with the border. They know what's going on with our Second Amendment rights, our First Amendment rights. They're aware of what's happening in women's sports. They're aware of what's happening in our schools. I mean, I have people. It was a while back, but I was sitting with some people that are Harris supporters, and they're talking about how it's totally far, like how great the school systems are. And I'm like, they have no idea what is happening in our schools. They have no idea about the indoctrination that's taking place, or how they're asking kindergartners how they identify. Like they don't know. But Trump supporters very much informed people. So it was really, really encouraging. Hello, my sister's on. Hey, Catherine, what's up? Hey, Peggy. Okay, so where do we even begin? Where do we start this conversation? I want to start with the Harris and, well, no, let's start with this, because last night there was an Al Smith dinner, and it's like a big charity dinner that they have one before presidential elections. And it's kind of like a time where people get together and they set aside their differences. They set aside, the Democrats, Republicans. It's not as divisive. And it's just kind of like a fun charitable dinner that helps the Catholic Church, helps what their mission, their charitable organizations, and presidents are always invited. Candidates are always invited. And Trump accepted the invitation. Harris did not. And that kind of upset some people. And what we're finding here with Harris is she's not good under pressure, like at all. And she's been hiding away, which is so funny because now they're like gaslighting, like Trump's hiding, like he won't give us his medical records. He won't do this. Like he's hiding. Like the guy is on the road in front of crowds every single day, not Harris, right? And Trump won't shy away from interviews. Harris, she's got to know everything beforehand, very scripted. She's just basically, she's the puppet for the people that are running the show, right? I mean, if we're telling the truth, I think Obama wants a fourth term, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. So anyways, Harris says, I'm not coming. So they have this big dinner and it was fun. And I want to show you guys a couple of highlights. I do like Jim Gaffigan, but he kind of upset me with the whole COVID thing. Like he was just over the top and angry, and he doesn't like Trump. But he hosted the dinner last night, and he had a kind of a funny dig at Kamala, which I was surprised. So here's Jim last night.
Yeah, this has been an interesting presidential campaign. The Democrats have been telling us Trump's reelection is a threat to democracy. In fact, they were so concerned of this threat, they staged a coup, ousted their democratically elected incumbent, and installed Kamala Harris. In other words, all her dreams have come true.
I mean, that's what happened, right? Like these people that scream democracy, democracy, and it's the will of the people, and the people have to decide who leads us. They kicked out their duly elected Democratic nominee for president and just installed Harris. And so for every Democrat leftist out there that preaches on democracy, you gotta sit this one out. Like you have to sit this one out. You guys didn't even have a say in who represents your party this election cycle. Like you were told to shut your face and we're going to go with Kamala and you just get in line. So they don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in democracy, nor do they act it out. They clearly don't. So I thought that was funny that he actually made that dig. But here's a top 5 from Trump at the dinner last night, just to give you guys a recap of what happened in case you didn't watch.
Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz. Well, I'd better wrap up because Mayor Adams told me earlier that I needed to make this one very quick, especially the city has reserved this room for a large group of illegal aliens coming in from Texas. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. A major issue in this race is child care, and Kamala has put forward a concept of a plan. A lot of people don't like it. The only piece of advice I would have for her in the event that she wins would be not to let her husband, Doug, anywhere near the nannies. Just keep him away. That's a nasty one. Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
So that's Trump from last night. And you got to give him credit, man. He showed up to a room with a large percentage of those people there hate him. And he took it lightly and was very likable. And that says a lot. And Harris didn't show. And you got to ask yourself, do you want someone that's going to show up, or do you want someone that's too afraid to show up? And I think that Trump showing up to a room full of leftists and poking fun and having a good night it just makes him more likable. It really does. He's got a great sense of humor, in case you guys don't know. Like, in case you haven't noticed, he does. He's very funny. So, all right, let's get into this Harris and Brett Baier interview. So, of course, the left is trying to spin this like she did excellent. She went into the lion's den. she's so fierce. First of all, Brett Baier is no fan of Trump. Okay, so you're not sitting down with like a Trump fan at all. Like Trump, Brett Baier, he's never been very complimentary to Trump ever. But I will say that this interview, he asked tough questions, and the left is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just asked questions. Now, if your candidate can't handle questions, they shouldn't be running for president. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if they can't answer just basic questions about the administration that they're part of without getting all hysterical, it's not a good sign. I mean, how is Harris going to do against Putin or Xi Jinping, right? I mean, you've got to ask yourself this. And she did nothing. If I was going to give like my total take on this interview did not help her. No one that watched this interview that was sitting on the fence was like, yes, Harris slayed it. She was amazing. No, not amazing. And I'd first like to ask, like, what happened to the joy, right? I don't think she cracked a smile the whole time she was in there. Very intense, very, very, well, let's watch. So the first question I have on here is immigrants. So he goes straight at her with asking about, okay, how many immigrants has your administration let in? Now, I want to tell you this. My daughter, my oldest daughter, came downstairs and she saw some of the interview. And after this question was asked, she said to me, she never answered the question. And then, you know, that was probably the only thing she saw. Then she went back upstairs. And I'm like, no, she never answers the question. And all throughout the interview, if you watched it, she never answers a question. Ever. Like, it's this roundabout, almost like I'm going to put you into a trance and I'm going to make you think that I'm saying something when I'm really not saying anything. But if I just keep talking to you, you'll eventually agree and nod your head and we'll go on to the next question without ever answering the previous question that you asked me. It's so like, I mean, and I'll find myself like getting trapped in that. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. But it was cool to see my daughter because she like wasn't like all like in it or anything. And she's like, she never answered the question. And then like walked off. And I was like, yeah, she never answered the question. She never says how many. So here's the first question out of the gate by Brett Baier.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a number, do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the...
Finish?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so she gets even more hysterical here. That bill she's talking about was just a pathway to citizenship for those that enter our country illegally. The Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, I think everyone needs to know this very clearly, especially with that bill that they put forward 3.5 years into their administration. So they open the border, they implement catch and release. So they have the Border Patrol down there catching immigrants, right? Telling them they need to return for a court date and then releasing them into our country, right? No vetting, just catching and releasing. They also have people that are declaring amnesty. There used to be a policy in place where they had to stay in Mexico. They had to stay in Mexico, declare amnesty there, then they're vetted properly and then allowed into our country under amnesty. They stopped the stay in Mexico. So people are coming into the border. Like there's no just declaring amnesty and coming into the border, no vetting happening at all. They stopped the border wall. Okay. The construction of the border wall. They did several things that allowed our border to swing wide open and allowed millions and millions and millions of immigrants into our country, illegal immigrants coming into our country. A lot of those immigrants now have gone on and have committed heinous acts. Okay. Of the 7 million that ICE took in and actually told them to return for court dates, okay, 600,000, over 600,000 of them have criminal records. And I believe it's 13,000 of them have committed murder. And it was either 16,000 or 13,000 have committed sexual assault in our country right now. Okay. They did this intentionally. This was an intentionally done thing. And if you've got to be pretty foolish to think like, oh, now they're trying to get a grip on it and they won't reopen the border if Kamala gets in. They will. They will. Okay. So you're looking at another 10, 20, 50 million people coming into our country, which transforms our nation. And then you have a one-party rule. Right? Then you have a one-party rule. That's why this election is so critical. It is the most critical election of our lifetime, and it will directly impact your children and your grandchildren. It is essential that you vote, and it is essential that you vote for Trump in order to secure our border and to protect our children and our grandchildren. It's so pivotal, and I don't know what else I can do. Like I'm doing all I can do. Knocking doors, I'm leaving literature on people's homes. I'm doing what I can do. I'm running this, I'm creating satire. But if you care about this nation, get involved, knock doors, make phone calls, do whatever you've got to do. Tell every single person that you know. This is so important. It is so important. Okay, so that's my stance on that. The next thing is, you can see this next piece, she gets a little antsy here. And this is the thing, like, as a woman, yes, I would love to see a woman president. Okay, who wouldn't? But I can actually define what a woman is, unlike the left. They want a woman president, yet they can't define what a woman is. I mean, make that make sense, right? But she's not a Margaret Thatcher, okay? She did what she got to do, what she had to do to get ahead. And if you study the life and the decisions made by Kamala Harris, no one could actually tell their daughter, follow that woman's path. You couldn't. Unless you want to compromise your values and you want to degrade yourself as a woman to get ahead, because that's what Kamala did. Okay. Look into her early initiation into public service and who she was running around with in order to be promoted. Okay, I don't want that for my daughters, and nor would I ever point to a woman like Kamala Harris and tell my daughters to in any way emulate her. Like, she's an embarrassment. She is an absolute embarrassment to women. If you've got to degrade yourself in order to get ahead as a woman, no, thank you. Sorry, no. So anyways, you can see her get a little testy here on this one.
Brett, more than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying. 79% of them Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me.
Isn't that funny? She's like, I love that part where he's like, you know what? She was like, you know what I'm talking about. He's like, actually, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, you know what I'm talking about. First of all, also, I feel like, I think that there's alcohol involved. I just got to say that. Like, it seems like she's 2 to 3 glasses in. Lately, it seems like she's definitely 3 glasses of wine in to her public appearances. I honestly mean that. And I drink wine and I like wine, but that's 3 glasses. You know what I'm talking about. You know. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm talking about. No, we don't know what you're talking about, Kamala. We don't know what you're talking about. And I love it. She wasn't able to answer the question, right? Turning the page. This is their big thing. We're going to turn the page. We're turning the page. You're in charge. Like, you've been in charge. And we've watched our border wide open. We've watched children being mutilated. We've watched big tech collude with your administration on censoring American speech. We've watched inflation skyrocket. We've watched gas prices go out of control. We've watched wars break out across our world. And you're in charge. You're in charge. Like, and we're going to turn the page. We're going to turn the page. Okay, well, you're in charge. You can't turn the page if you're in charge. Like I said, and I've been saying, this is an IQ test. And if you guys can't get this, I mean, we're going to turn them. You're in charge. And this is what you did when you were in charge. You put every American more at danger right now. That's what's happened with you being in charge. And Democrats have been in charge. Let's just be clear. 12 of the last 16 years. 12 of the last 16 years. Democrats have been in charge. To turn the page, then let's get some Republican conservatives back in charge if you want to really turn the page. And also, the entire time Trump was in office, he was attacked endlessly by the media. They launched some bogus Russian investigation. They brought forth impeachment after impeachment, trying to stop him from being able to govern. How amazing would it be if he could just govern and get everything back on track and get us going again as a nation? Like, that's what we need. Turn the page. You guys have been in charge and you've done a terrible job. Like, anyways, what else is going on? Okay. Trump went into an all-women town hall with Harris Faulkner from Fox News. I think that's it for the Kamala Harris interview. Basically, what I think I covered it. Well, the one more thing I do want to say. So there's this point where Brett Baier is like talking about Lake and Riley and Jocelyn and Rachel Morin and all these women that have been killed by our open border, by illegal immigrants coming over and violating them. And I just don't know how, as a woman, you could be like, yes, we want more of that. I really want to just roll the dice when my daughter goes out for a run in the morning. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, it's just so bad. Anyways, he goes on to say, you know, do you want to apologize for this? Do you want to apologize to the families because of your open border? Like, people are dead. People are dead because of Kamala Harris's policies. They're dead. Families now are without their loved ones because of Kamala Harris's policies. Like, do you want to apologize? And all she says, she doesn't apologize for her policies. Nope. She just, I'm sorry for their loss. I'm sorry for their loss. Well, you caused their loss, Kamala. You caused it. I'm sorry for their loss. And that's another thing about leaders. Leaders take responsibility. When you do something wrong as a leader, you own it. You apologize. Hey, you know what? It was a bad decision to leave our border open. It was a bad decision to stop building the wall. It was a bad decision to end catch and release. It was to implement catch and release. It was a bad decision to stop the stay in Mexico policy. Those were bad decisions. And in hindsight, being 2020, I would have made different calls. Is it that hard? Is it that hard to do? Obviously it is. And no leader, no one deserves the role of leadership if you can't apologize, if you can't own your faults. So anyways, okay. Harris Faulkner interview. I loved it because there was a huge cheer when Trump came out to this all women town hall, which was really exciting. They covered all sorts of stuff. They covered the child tax credit. They covered the cost of food, inflation, energy costs. They talked about electric vehicles, securing the border. Faulkner addressed how some are coming legally through a probation for prisoners. So what people don't realize that too, like in the whole Springfield, Ohio, right? They have the Biden-Harris administration thought it'd be a good idea to let former prisoners fly into our country and settle in Ohio. And that's what they're doing. So, and it's illegal, right? It's a probation thing that they're under right now, and there's no America first under these guys, like none. It's the world first, and it's destroying our country first. That's what their policies are. So they addressed that. They addressed sanctuary cities, the misuse of FEMA funds, the hurricanes. All of it was really, really great. And one thing that did stand out to me was they were talking about, where do I have it here? They were talking about, this is something that's become so, like, as a woman, I don't get how other women like cannot get behind women and support women in sports. Like, I don't understand that. Like, this whole feminist movement has literally destroyed women. It's come in, destroyed women, and now they're taking men, making them look like women, and destroying women's sports, having men come play against women in women's sports. For example, volleyball. There's this one volleyball player. Gosh, what team is she on? You guys might need to drop it. And it's a dude, right? And the guy is hitting the ball at like 80 miles an hour. Okay. And it hit one of the female players and has permanently caused her brain damage. Now, my daughters play volleyball, right? And they have potential. And to think, like, at some point, if we don't stop this, if we don't shut this down, my daughters will not be able to go on and continue to play, because I'm not going to have them out on some court having some dude nail them with a volleyball going 80 miles an hour. So as a woman, I don't understand how you could be like, yes, this is good. This is great for women. You've literally come like full circle as the feminist movement. Like it's like a hate for women. It's like a despising of women. You want guys in our locker rooms. You want guys in our restrooms changing next to your daughters. I don't understand it. It makes zero sense to me. And I think more and more women are starting to wake up. Thank God. Thank God that more and more women are like, wait a minute. That's a dude trying to compete against my daughter on the court. No. Oh, no. And a lot of volleyball teams across our nation are finally saying, we're not playing this team. We're not playing them. We're not going to play them. And they're being threatened. And I'm sorry, any college administration, any college or university, the presidents and like the top guys telling these female athletes to go play against men, you need to resign. You need to literally step down. Like you are not pro women at all. They want these women to continue to play because it makes, the university or the college money. So you got to play the guys. No, refuse to play them. Refuse. I'm not playing you. And finally, that's starting to happen. But I love that it's addressed in this town hall with Faulkner. Here we go.
How many of you are worried about biological men and boys competing against women and girls in sports? Just show me. That's almost that is the entire room.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
My question is, how do you plan on addressing the transgender issue in women's sports? I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of them female, all playing sports, and we are very concerned for their safety, not just on the field and the courts, but in their locker rooms as well.
Right. It's such an easy question, and everybody in the room, and you know that answer, we're not going to let it happen. We stop it. We stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it.
How do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just
councils?
ban it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen.
Like, so easy. Like, it's so simple. No, if you're a dude, you're not allowed to play against women. Sorry. Go form your own little team if you want to, but enough of this. I mean, it's time for women to find their voice and say no more. It stops with us, ladies. Like, it stops with, no, sorry, no, we're not playing you. No. I don't know how all this, it's for, I'm voting for Kamala for my daughter. I'm voting for Kamala for my daughter. No, you're not. Well, if you're voting for Kamala for your daughter, then you're only voting to give your daughter the right to abort a full-term baby. That's what the Kamala Harris administration stands for women. That's the only area that they're like, yes, if your daughter wants to kill her baby at full term, we're talking 40 weeks, we support women. But in every other aspect of their lives, we will not have your back. If you don't want your daughters changing next to man, sorry. If you don't want your daughter playing playing against a man in her sport, sorry. If you don't want your daughter being drafted into World War III, sorry. I mean, you're not for your daughter if you're voting for Kamala Harris. You're not. You're not. And hopefully you've raised your daughter to not want to ever abort her baby. And at full term, woman will not give a limit on abortion. Okay. So, and just to those people, gosh, I know these people, man. I'm pro-life. I'm so pro-life. I'm a pro-life Catholic. I'm a pro-life Christian, but I'm voting for Kamala. You can't be. You can't be. You can't. Your vote is your authorization. You are authorizing with your vote. If you vote for Kamala Harris, you are authorizing full-term abortion, and you will stand before God on that. You'll have to justify it, and there's no justification for it. None. So, anyways, you guys, Hamas leader is killed. This is a big deal. This happened, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? I don't know. I get my times mixed up. Israeli forces in Gaza killed the Hamas leader, Yahya Sinwar, the architect of the October 7th, 2023 terrorist attacks. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced in an address yesterday, I believe, Vice President Harris said Sinwar's death gives us an opportunity to finally end the war in Gaza. Sinwar was born in a refugee camp and spent years in an Israeli prison before he rose up to the top of the Iran-backed militant group and was described as a dead man walking by the Israeli military in the days after the October 7th. So this is the guy that literally caused or architect of October 7th, and he was taken out. So that's good news. That's excellent news for everybody, actually. That's good news. And now I think we have to watch and see kind of a thing, right? Like what happens next with Israel? What happens next with Iran? And you want somebody that has got a firm, strong stance. You want somebody that terrorists fear in office because things are very volatile right now. You want somebody that's going to shut this stuff down and not escalate it. So, and that person's clearly Trump. We had peace in the Middle East, guys, when he was president. That's another thing. I have to address this because I stumbled upon this while I was on X, and it's just MSNBC just hysteric over anyone that could support Trump. So I want to play this, and I want to address what this guy says.
You know, I talk, as we all talk to a lot of people who vote for Trump, and I say to them, and I still can't sort of figure out, do they not believe it or do they not care? Do they not understand that our freedom is on the line? Do they not get that, or do they just not care? Do they take freedom for granted at this point? You know, when you hear Mark Milley, a man who has served this country, a great man, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, literally say, who's been in the room with him and say, he is a fascist to the core. He is a danger to America. Do they think he's making that up? Do they just so care about their 3% tax cut? What is it? And I challenge people, and I say, you do understand that he will turn on this country, and he will turn us into Hungary. Do you not understand the freedoms? It started, as you brought it up, it started with Roe v. Wade. It will continue. It will continue by putting his enemies in jail. It will continue on having unfree media. Are there people around this table that are really worried? Rev, are you worried going forward that you're on a list if Donald Trump is elected? Yes or no?
I'm convinced I'll be on the list.
Okay, so this is how a lot of people I know that are supporting Harris think, right? This guy, he's gonna be a fascist. He's gonna be a dictator. Somebody sent me, it's a family member that another family member sent me something that another family member posted of like Trump, like Trump being Hitler. Like if you vote for him, you're voting for Hitler. Like it's TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, like to the hilt. Like, I mean, they really believe, they're like, oh, he's Hitler. He's going to lock us all up. Like it's a fear-based campaign, like, right. And when they start to really push the fear, you know that they're panicking. Okay. So this guy clearly, they're going to lock us all up. What I have to say to this is just bring some rationality. Okay. Trump has already been president. I know, it's a shocker, right? And he didn't lock up his political opponents. He didn't start burning books and creating gulags. Like he didn't do anything that a dictator does. And first of all, just so we're clear, dictators always take the guns first. Always. But this guy probably doesn't know that because he probably hasn't studied any history. But when a dictator comes to power, the first thing they do is they take the guns. They come for the guns. Why? Because you can't defend yourself, okay? There's only one political party running right now that wants to take the guns, that wants to at least start to limit and take back some of your Second Amendment rights. And that's not Trump. Okay, so that's just common sense, rational thinking. Okay, because we need more of that because this is hysteria. Like, oh my gosh, it's Hitler. He's going to lock us all up. Also, they are currently locking up their opposition. They have locked up several people that have worked in the Trump administration. They're currently trying to lock up Trump. They're the ones that are locking up their political opponents. The Democrats are doing that right now. So again, just bring some rational thought to all this, okay? Do they take their freedom for granted? Like that's what he also said. Do they take their freedom for granted? Do they know that it's all going to turn into a tyrannous country if he gets it? Okay, can we just go back to 2021 just for a second? Where I had friends and family that were willing to lose their jobs because they didn't want to be injected with a big pharma chemical substance. And the government was coming in through OSHA, a government organization, telling people that they had to inject themselves with that. And if they didn't, they would lose their jobs. That is taking freedom. And the only thing that stopped that is your Constitution. is your Constitution, where finally the Supreme Court's like, wait a minute, you can't, no, OSHA can't do this. They finally ruled against that. Okay. The current administration has been found to have colluded with big tech, right on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, big tech, to censor American speech. That is a violation of your First Amendment. Again, taking your freedoms. That's this current administration. Okay. This is just rational thought, right? It's just bringing common sense to hysteria, to the people on MSNBC that are just losing their minds that he's Hitler when they're unaware to clearly see what's currently happening in our country. And if we just had more people just say, take a deep breath and look around at what's happened under the current administration. Anyways, I saw that. I was like, this dude. Anyways, okay. Okay. This is a big one. So CBZ management, do you guys remember like a month and a half ago, it broke all across national news that gangs, Venezuelan gangs were taking over apartments in Aurora, and people are like, no, they're not. You're being so hysterical. That's not true. You're such a liar. You're not telling the truth. And even Mike Kaufman, right? The mayor of Aurora was like, Aurora is not being taken over by Venezuelan gangs. But notice that he said Aurora is not being taken over by Venezuelan gangs, but apartments are. Apartments are. So CBZ, the owner of these apartments, makes a statement that I'm going to share in a minute, verifying that, yes, they are taking over. But I found it hilarious because J.D. Vance went on with Martha Raddatz a few days ago over the weekend, and she says this to him, and I absolutely love how he handled it. So here's this.
Limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be.
And I just love that. I mean, the fact that Martha Raddatz is like, it's just a handful of apartments. A handful of apartments. Like, that's a big deal. I'm sorry. Would you guys be okay if we'd be like, it's just a handful of houses on your street. It's not the entire street. Oh my God, you're being so dramatic. Like, calm down. It's just a handful of homes on your street that have been taken over. I mean, you're really being nutty on this one. Any apartments being taken over by foreign gangs is a big deal. And it shouldn't be permitted. It shouldn't be allowed. Anyways. Okay. So CBZ management comes on and they make a post, and you guys can see this and share this, because every single time someone's like, it's not a big deal. It's not, you know what? It would be a big deal if it was your home. If you lived in that apartment. I mean, they talk about, this is the thing with the left, man. They talk about being compassionate, right? Having empathy, really getting in there with your neighbor and identifying with them, and just taking in the community and just really feeling what those around you are feeling, and putting yourself in their shoes. But when it's actually time to do that, the left just spits on you. Because there are people that are directly impacted by this. And if this was your family living in an apartment, trying to get by, struggling, and some foreign gang shows up and takes over, that would be absolutely terrifying. Where is the empathy to the left? Like, I'm sorry, where are you guys? Do you not care? CBS management. So they come in and they say, the situation in Aurora, Colorado has gained attention as gangs and illegal immigrants have taken control of our properties. So they confirm this. However, the larger issue is that the government not only ignored the crisis, but also scapegoated us to avoid accountability. Where we stand now, 2 of our properties in Aurora, Colorado remain under gang control. By gang control, we mean that most or all of the rental income is diverted to a criminal enterprise comprised of gang members and illegal immigrants instead of the rightful property owners. A third of the building was shut down by the city for code violation. Let's take a closer look at those so-called violations. And then they list all of the violations. They talk about how people that have worked for them have been assaulted by these gangs. They show pictures of the blood and the assault. And it's a huge thread about all of the things that have happened because of these gangs taking over their buildings. It talks about people that lived in the building, like a woman that lived in the building. She was actually at the Trump rally, talked about how terrifying it was. And she spoke at the rally and she lived in the building, you guys. And the media, it's not happening. It's not happening, but it's happening. And it can happen in your neighborhood. It could happen to a home in your behind you or in front of you, or we have to stop this. We have to stop this. And if you think for a second that Kamala is going to stop this when she allowed it for 3.5 years, you're delusional. It's time to protect this nation. It's time to protect our kids and our grandkids. Oh yeah, there's a great meme. I think I retweeted this, or I might have posted it. The multiple choice, like a handful of yes. Gosh, where could I find that? There's a meme where it has like JD Vance giving his face like, and it's like, and Martha Raddatz is above it, and it's like, how many apartments, being taken over by Venezuelan gangs is appropriate? A handful, 1, 2, or like 0. It's like the answer is 0. Clearly, it's 0. We should have 0. I don't know, you guys. Have you? I don't know. And I think of this. I've always read this story to my kids. It's like if you give a mouse a cookie, right? I don't know if you guys have read it. It's a childhood book, and it's about this mouse that asked this little boy in his house for a cookie, and the boy's like, "Sure, I'll give you a cookie." So he gives the cookie to the mouse, and the mouse is like, "Oh, I'm thirsty." And so he's like, I'd like a glass of milk. So he gives the milk to the mouse. And then the mouse is like, I need a straw. So he gives the straw. And then and then now he's like, he's taking the straw, and he reminds him of like a crayon. And he's like, I would like to color. And it goes on and on and on. All these things that then curtail off of him just asking for a cookie. And to me, it's like, to an adult, it's like, just say no. Like, no. Because then all of these other things will follow. No to the Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment buildings. It's just a no. It's a no to men playing in women's sports. It's just a no. At some point, you have to draw the line. Guys, anyways. All right. So what else? Oh, okay. So we got to get into this, and then we'll start to wrap it up because we're already at like 48 minutes in. I was entertained because Jennifer Garner, who's very likable. Like, she's a likable actress. Not necessarily great probably at picking guys, but likable, but clearly struggling in her personal life. Got some issues with her kids, marriage, all of that stuff. But she wants you to vote for Harris. She does. And I was highly entertained because in this, she's giving this speech in front of some Pennsylvanians. And she says, is there anything sexier than a man who's like men for Kamala? And I thought, she can't be serious. Like, as a woman, if I was to think of any guy voting for Kamala Harris, like how unattractive that is. Like, there's nothing about that is sexy. There's nothing about that that's like, yes. these are the men that are supporting Kamala Harris. And then you tell me if this is sexy. Okay, just you tell me if this is sexy. Let me really quick remove this, and I've got to add it. But I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. And they're telling us that these are the men supporting Harris.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and
Now, hold on. I just got to say something here. I'm sorry. Like, when I first saw this, you guys, I thought that it was satire. Like, I thought they were joking. What dude sits like this? Honestly, look at him. What guy sits like this? Okay. Let's continue. Let's just
accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough.
He just said full-throated endorsement.
Enough to support women.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions.
Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women.
Or one of
Like, is this sexy, guys? Honestly.
those pants books that the sisters like.
I'm man enough to raw dog a flight.
Raw dog at flight. Are we listening?
It sucked. Not worth it.
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I don't think you should mention Horace when you've got Tim Walz running as your running mate.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story.
That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
That's not how my mama raised me.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
Like, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, honestly, the worst. I don't know who in the Harris administration, like Harris campaign was like, yes, yes, let's do this. Let's put this up there and just let it go. Let it go good. I mean, it's so no. It's so no. And the guys I know that will vote for Harris, they're beta men. They're beta men. The women run the show in their homes. You're not going to find an alpha voting for Harris. You're just not. And if women were really honest, and they weren't threatened by men, every single woman out there wants a strong man. They do. They want a strong man and strong in their masculinity and confident and secure and protects and provides. That's what women want. But this feminist movement has taken men to I can't even describe what they've done with men. Honestly, it's sad. It's so sad. Just as sad as this ad is. So I played around with this for a bit, but here is a satire on Jennifer Garner saying that men voting for Kamala is sexy. And I honestly, I don't believe that she believes that. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second. I don't know any woman that's confident in herself and that's not threatened by men, because there's a lot of the feminists, the blue haired, a lot of the women out there that are all Harris Waltz. They don't like men. Right. So they're not yet like, yes, let's go with that at all. They don't like men. So they're not going to be voting for an alpha male. Like, they're threatened by him. But a strong, confident woman has no fear of an alpha male whatsoever. In fact, they're attracted to it. They not for a second are they threatened by an alpha, because they're secure in their own skin. Strong women are. It's the insecure women that are threatened by strong men that will be voting for Harris. So But here's Garner. Here you go.
Sexier than a man who's like men for... I'm sorry. We have to do that again. We'll do it again. Anything sexier than a man who's like... Anything sexier than a man who's like men for... I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can do this. I'm an actress. I can do this. Should I jump at the end? Like, wow! Ah! Jump around maybe? Just to add the excitement? Joy? Come on, Jennifer, you can do this. You're in Capital One commercials. I mean, is there anything sexier than a man who's like men for... I don't know why I can't... I'm so sorry. Let's just try again. Let's try again. I mean, is there anything sexier than a man who's like men for... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I can do this. I can get through it. I can. I mean, is there anything sexier? I can't get through this line. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
God, is there anything sexier than a man who is like men for Kamala?
No, I'm sorry. I just can't. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. It's a weak woman that's voting for Harris. That's what it is. Because like I said earlier, like a strong, confident woman wants a strong, confident man. Right? I mean, right? So, and you're not gonna, and you're not gonna find that in Tim Walz, her running mate, the guy that's pushing for tampons in boys' restrooms, and once thinks it's totally fine for a child to transition, and if a parent opposes the transition, then that child is taken away from the parents. Like that's not a strong man. Like that's someone that's jacking up our children and screwing with children. So that's not a strong man. So it's the men out there supporting Harris are weak men, right? And the women voting for Harris are weak women. Strength is attracted to strength, right? And there's only one strong candidate running right now that exudes strength and power and wants to bring that power and make America powerful again. So anyways, I find it interesting, though, that a lot of men now, I mean, the majority of men, even black men, are turning out now for Trump. And it's frustrating for the Democrats right now. They're really freaking out and they're trying to do everything they can to get that male vote, but it's not happening. I mean, overwhelmingly, men are supporting Trump right now. The New York Times just did a deep dive into the youth vote, and Republicans maintain a massive lead amongst young men, even after Joe Biden dropped out. Mr. Trump leads Ms. Harris among young men 58% to 37% across the last three times Siena polls. Ms. Harris holds an even, but Ms. Harris leads amongst the women. But it's the men that overwhelmingly are turning out for Trump. There's an enormous gender gap among young voters is happening right now. And that's a new thing because most of the time the youth kind of votes together. Most of the time, like the young women, young men, they vote similarly. This time it's completely breaking. Men, even young, old, doesn't matter what age they are, they're all breaking for Trump. And I had to do a satire on why.
The internal polling with men right now, and we are not doing well. And I don't know why.
I mean, honestly, if you wanted to point to all of the world's problems, it's the men. It's the men. I mean, can you imagine a world without men? Oh, it sounds dreamy, just dreamy. I dream too of a world with all women, just no men at all and all women. Someday. Toxic masculinity, to be more specific. Oh yes, toxic masculinity. I've heard of this. It's so scary. I mean, honestly, what is the point to a man's existence? I mean, I'm just being honest. And the mansplaining. Have you ever had a mansplain? Oh, it's horrifying. It's oh, like I can't even think about it right now. Honestly, there's nothing more attractive to me than a man taking on the role of a woman. It's so attractive. A feminist man is my, well, yes, sign me up. And their muscles and their stature. Oh, it's so scary. Every day I wake up and I think, down with the patriarchy. Down with the patriarchy. Sorry, it's just it's a passion. It's passion. I would prefer to rid the world of men. We don't need them. We don't need them.
I mean, honestly, are no men voting Democrat this election cycle?
Let's hope not. Let's honestly hope not. And it looks like it's leading that way, you guys. It looks like the men are just not, they're not feeling Kamala. They're not feeling Comrade Kamala. I wonder why. I mean, after years and years and years of treating men like absolute garbage, now they want the men to vote for their candidate. Like, stop it. Stop it. We need men. I got all choked up the other day. I saw some video of all the jobs that men do that women don't do. They don't, putting their life on the line for us. And we need to thank them. We need to respect men. We need to appreciate them. When you value something, then they value you back. That's just such a beautiful picture of what like true marriage is supposed to look like. According to the Bible, when you cherish something, that something cherishes you back. And we've seen for the last 40 plus years, the Democrat Party bash men over and over and over again, to the point where, especially the white male, good luck trying to get a job. Like, good luck to you. Like, it's bad. It's so bad. And now they're freaking out because the men aren't voting for them. Well, this is self-inflicted. The Democrats have done this to themselves. Maybe you should start to value men. So anyways, I just hope that the men, and I do, it polls all over. I mean, every poll is saying that the men are overwhelmingly voting for Trump, and thank God for that. And I hope the women wake up. I mean, my prayer is that these women, I want control over my body. Where were you during COVID? Anyways, it's not your body. There's another body involved. There's so many other things. And I should show you this video I did a long time ago, but it's insulting. If I was a Democrat voter, I would be insulted that the Democrat Party only thinks that women care about one thing. I mean, that's offensive. That's offensive. That we're not supposed to care about foreign policy or the fact that you could, and they want to implement a draft and draft women into war. Like that's part of the leftist agenda. Like, you don't think that I care about that for my daughters? Or that you want to escalate war and continue to fund war that could directly affect my son? You don't think I as a woman should care about that? Or I as a woman should care about the economy, inflation, gas prices? I shouldn't care about an open border. I shouldn't care about my Second Amendment right. I shouldn't care about my right to free speech. Like, I'm not supposed to care about any of those things as a woman. I'm only supposed to care about the ability for me to kill the life growing inside of me. Like, that's all I'm supposed to care about. Like, that should offend you as a woman. As a woman, that should offend you. Because they think that you're so stupid that that's all you care about. You care about nothing else but the right to take the life of the unborn growing inside of your womb. Like, I hope women are waking up. I hope women are starting to see it. Like, you're not supposed to care about men competing against your daughters in sports. Like, you're just not supposed to care about that. You just focus on this one thing, you cute little woman, you. That should offend you. We should overwhelmingly support the policies that protect our children and protect this country. And there's only one party that's implementing those policies, and we should vote accordingly. So, anyways, all right, you guys, that's it for me. And children, yeah, Chris, children being trafficked. Like I'm not supposed to care about children being trafficked across the border. Like I'm just supposed to ignore that and only focus on my reproductive rights. Like that's so offensive. Like and they think that's like, they think you're dumb as a woman. Like you're the dummy. You're the dumb one. The fentanyl crisis, the suicide rates. Like we're not supposed to care about any of that. You just focus on your uterus. You cute little woman, you. Sorry. I there's so much more for me as a woman to care about, and I have every right to care about the other issues. Don't put me in a box. And as a woman, you should refuse to be put in that box. You should say, no, not doing it. Anyways, all right. All right, you guys, that's it for me. That's a wrap. Keep praying for this country, praying for this nation. I mean, and that's what I come down to. It does come down to my faith, and I'm trusting in God through all of this. And my plea is that God gives us another 4 years, so 4 years of peace and prosperity and a return to normalcy. It's just wacky out there. And what is being allowed is insane. It's like, wake me up from this nightmare. Like that's what the prayer should be. Like, wake me up from the nightmare. Like, can we end the nightmare and not let it continue? But at the end of the day, I know that God is sovereign. He already knows who is going to win this thing. He already knows. He's seated on the throne. And that gives me peace. And I hope that you have your own walk with God and your own relationship with Jesus, that regardless of what happens, you trust in God. And he sees it, right? It's not like, oh, this is going to catch him off guard. Like he sees it. He knows. And all things work together for the good, right? So that is what I am trusting in that. And there is peace in that. I'm not up at night, ringing my, whoa, what's going to happen? I'm not. I'm trusting in God. And regardless of what happens, I know that I'm dwelling under the shadow of his wing. And that is my prayer. That's my prayer for my kids, my prayer for my family. And be praying over your families. There's power in prayer. Never underestimate the power of prayer. There's so much power in prayer. And God moves when you pray, right? When you begin to pray, when you begin to take authority with your words, when you take action, that's when God can move. So be praying for your families. Be praying for your loved ones. Be praying for those that cannot see it, that their eyes would be opened. Because I found with some people that I know, I can create satire after satire. I can do commentary after commentary, but they're blind. They're blind to it. I'm sure you guys have people like that. It's like, they just can't see it. And the only thing I believe that can release that veil from their eyes is prayer. I really do. I believe that there is nothing God cannot do. And no soul is too far gone and no person is too far gone. Like God wants everybody. And God can wake people up that we can't. And that can be done through prayer. So, all right. Yeah, that man was saved from a bullet. Amen. I totally believe that was an absolute miracle. All right, you guys. God bless you all. I'm thankful for you. A shout out to my Patreon supporters. I see Peggy on here. A faithful Patreon supporter. Truly blessed to have you guys. I am so thankful to have people that come alongside me and support me. I have mentioned time and time again, the censorship is out of control. Just to give you an example, in 2020, when there was insane censorship during the 2020 election, right? I would do a post on Facebook and I'd still get about 20,000 likes on average. Like that was just like a normal thing. Now, when I post on Facebook, I get about 100 or not even. So the censorship right now is more intense than it's ever been. And the only ability that really allows me to do this is being able to have a Patreon where people can come in and support me, because the it's being clamped down across YouTube, Facebook, and it's very hard to monetize. And so to justify doing this, I was like, I'm going to create a Patreon. And I have had people that have come alongside me and they support me on a monthly basis. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can just be a little bit, but it allows me to keep doing this. And so I'm thankful for my Patreon supporters that are on here. I see you guys and I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed by you all. So that's it for me. Wishing you all a wonderful and blessed weekend. Spend time with the ones you love and love the ones in front of you, right? I think sometimes we just get so that see the people in front of you, love them. And may God give you the eyes to see the way he sees. That's what I ask. I ask that can I see people the way you see them? Can I see the situation the way you would see it? And let me be led by your Holy Spirit. I ask God to lead me by the Holy Spirit, because sometimes our flesh doesn't want to be, our flesh wants to do something, but our spirit, God's spirit in us, has something totally different, and his ways are higher than our ways. And so if we're led by the Spirit, his Spirit, then we're in the right place at the right time. And so that's important. All right, you guys, I'm thankful for you all, and have a blessed weekend. We'll talk soon. Bye, guys.